I was reborn. Not only that, I was dropped into a high-octane action novel I'd read, one of those male fantasy power stories. I had become the cannon fodder rich heir, the pathetic simp whom the ice-cold female CEO fiancée looked down on, and who eventually got crushed under the heel of the main protagonist. The moment the call connected, I cut straight to the chase. Victoria Harrington, let's end the engagement. On the other end was my fiancée in name only, and destined to be one of the future main protagonist conquests in the novel. She was a cutthroat corporate executive, trained since childhood to inherit power, possessing a terrifying intellect, but utterly devoid of warmth. I knew she despised me. The character I had replaced was a useless layabout, good for nothing but partying and wasting money. But now I was done playing their game. I just wanted to retire quietly, embrace the lying flat philosophy, and enjoy my boring life with a multi-billion-dollar fortune. After all, in my previous life, I was just an ordinary guy who worked himself to death. The line was silent for a long time before a cool, measured voice returned. Ethan Vance, what ridiculous stunt are you pulling now? I ignored her interrogation, my voice laced with lazy amusement. I'm not pulling a stunt, Tori. I'm perfectly lucid. Consider it done. My chief of staff will handle the necessary paperwork with your people. I hung up immediately, switched the phone to silent, and tossed it onto the adjacent leather armchair. Silence reigned. I stretched languidly, savoring the soft leather beneath me and the harsh Manhattan sun streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Being alive was great, especially being alive as a multi-billion-dollar heir. Alistair, I called out. The next second, a man in a perfectly tailored dark suit, wearing thin, gold-rimmed glasses, appeared silently before me and bowed slightly. Mr. Vance, how may I assist you? His name was Alistair Shaw, my chief of staff, a man whose capacity for relentless work and sheer competence rivaled a superhero's. In the novel, he eventually defected to the protagonist because of my predecessor's incompetence, becoming a major asset to the hero. But for now, he was still mine. Go to Harrington Global and terminate the engagement. I pointed toward the discarded phone. Also, halt all non-core, messy investment projects I currently own and recall all the capital. Furthermore, from now on, you handle everything company-related. You make the decisions, I take the profits. Don't bother me unless Vance Industries is about to crash. A faint glint flashed across Alistair's glasses. He adjusted them, his face showing no emotion. Understood, Mr. Vance. Any other instructions? I thought for a moment. Book the best modern American Nouvelle cuisine spot in the city. I want a reservation now. In my last life, trying to scrape by, I couldn't even afford expensive takeout, let alone high-end tasting menus. This life, I needed to make up for lost time, especially since the gym had given this body an impressive 8-pack in V-line. It would be a shame not to fuel it with something truly exceptional. I've already secured a table for this evening at the Cloister. The executive chef is a James Beard Award winner, Chef Du Bois. Alistair's pace was unhurried and precise. I paused. I hadn't even requested a place, and he had already arranged it. Alistair seemed to read my mind, offering an explanation. Based on your biometric data and recent fitness reports, your body fat percentage is now at 12%. You require high-quality protein and complex carbohydrates. Considering your known palate preferences, the Cloister is the optimal choice. Damn, was this the power of a top-tier chief of staff? I was impressed. Excellent work. I nodded in satisfaction. Go deal with the paperwork. Alistair bowed and retreated. I was left alone again, reclining on the sofa, staring up at the glittering crystal chandelier. I had only one thought. Lying flat feels incredible. As for the ice-cold Tori Harrington, and that overpowered protagonist who was about to show up, they could go fight their own battles. I just wanted to be a happy, salty fish. I had a strong premonition that my brand new, utterly simple rich guy life was about to begin. Night fell, and the city lights came alive. Alistair's personal car stopped precisely on time outside the entrance of the Cloister. The place was tucked away down an old alley in downtown Manhattan. Dark stone walls, antique lanterns flanking the door, no discernible sign, just a faint, exquisite aroma of cooking wafting out. Interesting. As soon as I stepped out of the car, a server in an elegant, tailored uniform approached and offered a subtle smile. Mr. Vance? Ms. Chun is expecting you inside. Ms. Chun? I was confused. Alistair hadn't mentioned anyone else. The server led me through a winding hallway to a private dining room overlooking a small reflecting pool. Pushing open the wooden door, a figure stood leaning against the railing, gazing out at the moonlight reflecting on the water. She wore a pale green silk dress that emphasized her elegant silhouette, her hair cascading down her back. Hearing the noise, she slowly turned around. In that instant, I felt my breath hitch. What a beauty! Her eyebrows were perfectly arched, her eyes serene like autumn water, her skin flawless. She possessed a refined composure, as if she had stepped straight out of a classical painting. Her beauty wasn't aggressive or dazzling, but rather a soft, quiet grace that immediately brought a sense of calm. "Hello, Ethan Vance." She offered a light smile, her voice clear and melodious, like the tinkling of a spring fountain. "I'm Audrey Chun." Audrey Chun? That name. I rapidly searched the original novel's plot. She wasn't in it. This was a character who didn't exist in the book. "Ms. Chun, do we know each other?" I asked, perplexed. She shook her head, the smile in her eyes deepening. "We do now, don't we?" She gestured toward the several exquisite dishes already arranged on the table. "This private restaurant is owned by my family. I heard from Chef Dubois that we had a distinguished guest tonight, someone with exceptional knowledge of ingredients and preparation. So I was curious to meet you." "Ah, the proprietor. I apologize for the intrusion." I said politely. "Not at all. Please sit." Audrey gestured gracefully. "It's our honor to meet a connoisseur." I stopped fussing and took a seat. The table held several classic American Nouvelle plates, meticulously prepared. The lobster bisque was perfect, the pan-seared scallops were artful. Every dish was immaculate, clearly the work of a master. But what interested me most was the small pitcher of plum liqueur set in the corner of the table. I poured myself a small glass and took a sip. The liquor was sweet and tart, clear and refreshing. The essence of plum and the complexity of the alcohol were perfectly fused, leaving a long, satisfying finish. "Excellent spirit," I praised sincerely. Though, if the base alcohol were swapped for a 30-year-old aged whiskey and a hint of gardenia essence were added during fermentation, the flavor profile would achieve greater complexity. Audrey's eyes immediately lit up, like stars beginning to twinkle. You understand distilling too?" I smiled slightly. In my past life, I had few hobbies outside of trying to make money, but I did enjoy tinkering with home brewing, whiskeys, meads, fruit wines. I was somewhat of a half-expert. Just a little. That's far more than a little. Audrey's voice held a note of genuine excitement. "The modification you just described is precisely what my grandfather detailed in his original notes for this plum liqueur, which were tragically lost years ago." She looked at me, her gaze filled with curiosity and admiration. "Mr. Vance, you truly are an interesting person." Interesting? That was the first time anyone had ever described me that way. Usually, it was useless or spoiled brat. The dinner with Audrey was unexpectedly stimulating. We moved from discussing the precise knife work of Nouvelle cuisine to the differences between regional American food styles, from the craft of distilling to the subtleties of tea ceremony. I discovered that this seemingly gentle, flowing girl possessed deep knowledge in all these areas. More importantly, talking to her was comfortable and relaxing. As the meal ended, Audrey personally escorted me to the door. "Ethan, this evening was delightful." She handed me a black card. "This is my private contact. If you ever want another exquisite meal, or just a drink, please call me anytime." I accepted the card. It felt smooth and warm in my hand, bearing only a phone number and the initial of "I will." Watching her elegant figure walk away, I suddenly felt that this lying flat life might be even more interesting than I had initially imagined. The next day, I woke up naturally. Opening my eyes, sunlight already flooded the room. I picked up my phone, a dozen missed calls, all from Tori Harrington and her father. I frowned and ignored them. I checked a financial news app, however, and a headline immediately grabbed my attention. "Vance Industries stock surges against market trends, hits all-time high overnight." Below it was a picture of me, accompanied by a sensational headline: "The mysterious heir Ethan Vance's hidden strategy. Did you see it coming?" Me? What strategy? My only strategy was figuring out the best way to nap. I immediately called Alistair. "What the hell is going on?" Alistair, on the other end, remained as calm as a robot. "Mr. Vance, this is the situation. Among the investment projects you instructed me to liquidate yesterday was one concerning Project Aegis. After thorough evaluation, I determined the project had immense potential, so rather than withdrawing funds, I utilized emergency capital to complete a full acquisition. Early this morning, Project Aegis achieved a major breakthrough in its core technology and filed for a global patent. Due to this news, our group stock value reached its limit up." I listened dumbfounded. Project Aegis? I didn't remember investing in that. "Oh wait, I dimly recalled signing a document while drunk last year. I think I found a young guy pitching the idea to be kind of endearing. So, you're telling me I told you to liquidate, and you decided to acquire instead? I was halfway between annoyance and laughter. Yes, Mr. Vance. Alistair's tone lacked any emotion. My directive is to generate the maximum possible value for you. Every instruction you issue is subject to risk assessment and value judgment, and I execute the optimal choice. What could I say? When your subordinate is this competent, what is the boss supposed to do besides lie down and count money? Fine, you handle it. I hung up, feeling like the world was surreal. I tried to slack off and accidentally made a massive fortune. Is this what rich life is like? While I was musing, my phone rang again. This time, an unknown number. I answered casually. Ethan. It was Tori Harrington's voice, cold and laced with suppressed fury. What exactly are you trying to achieve? Nothing much, I yawned. I want to go back to sleep. You. Tori seemed momentarily choked. She took a deep breath, her tone betraying a hint of impatience she rarely showed. Do you honestly think using these pathetic means will get my attention? It's childish. You acquired Project Aegis just to prove your competence and make me regret my decision, didn't you? I'm telling you it won't work. The qualities I value, Ethan, are never superficial things like money or corporate assets. I finally understood. She thought this entire string of business maneuvers was a desperate attempt to win her back. This Ice Queen executive might be a little too full of herself. Ms. Harrington, I believe you've misunderstood. I spoke lazily. First, ending the engagement was serious. Second, acquiring Project Aegis was purely accidental. I've forgotten the project even existed. Third, I genuinely have zero interest in you. So, please stop calling me. I'm very busy. Busy lying flat. You bastard. A shout erupted on the other end, followed by the dial tone. I shrugged, tossing the phone aside. Peace at last. What I didn't know was that on the other side of the call, Tori stood before a huge glass window, clutching her phone so tightly her knuckles were white. For the first time, her face showed an expression other than cold neutrality. It was shock, confusion, and a hint of, though she wouldn't admit it, panic. She couldn't believe it. How could the man who had always chased her like a lapdog, Ethan Vance, suddenly become so utterly alien? To celebrate the stock surge, I decided to hit the gym. After all, physical fitness is the capital required for high-quality lying flat. My regular gym was a top-tier private club, exclusive and quiet. I changed quickly and walked toward the weights section, where I immediately spotted a familiar figure. Audrey Chun. Today, she wore a pale pink yoga set that highlighted her perfect curves. Her long hair was tied into a cute ponytail, and without makeup, she looked even more innocent and charming. She was jogging slowly on a treadmill, beads of sweat glistening on her forehead, her cheeks flushed with a healthy glow. Seeing me, her eyes brightened, and she slowed to a stop. Ethan, what a coincidence. She waved, using the casual, familiar nickname effortlessly. Ethan? I paused, but I didn't dislike it. It is a coincidence. I walked onto the treadmill next to hers and started my warm-up. I saw the news. Congratulations, she leaned over, smiling. So young, and already the silent puppet master behind a multi-billion-dollar corporation. Impressive. My mouth twitched. Puppet master? I'm just a guy who delegates everything. That's still impressive, Audrey insisted, her voice full of admiration. My grandfather always said that the truly great leader knows how to select the right people. When a company thrives while the owner does nothing, that is the highest form of leadership. I like that. A kindred spirit. Oh, right. She remembered something and retrieved a beautiful, insulated thermos from a nearby locker. I made some honey and almond rice pudding this morning. You should drink this after your workout. It's great for high-quality protein and recovery. She opened the thermos, and a clean, sweet aroma filled the air. Seeing the eagerness in her eyes, I couldn't possibly refuse. Thank you. An hour later, I finished my strength training, covered in sweat. The outline of my 8-pack was even sharper, thanks to the moisture. I reached for my towel, but a pair of small, cool hands suddenly landed on my abdomen. My body tensed. I looked back. Audrey stood right behind me, her large eyes wide and blinking, a blush dusting her cheeks. Her fingers tentatively poked my abs. Wow, it really is an 8-pack. She whispered, sounding like a child discovering a new continent. It feels amazing. Me. This girl, despite her gentle demeanor, was surprisingly handsy. However, being touched by her soft, cool hands felt not bad. In fact, a certain part of me started to stir. I cleared my throat, subtly stepping back a fraction. Be careful. We're in public. Audrey seemed to realize how forward her action had been. Her cheeks immediately turned crimson, like a ripe apple. She quickly pulled her hand away and shoved the thermos into my arms. Then, drink this quickly before it cools down. I have to go shower now. She darted away like a startled rabbit, disappearing into the women's locker room. I looked at the thermos in my hand, then touched the spot on my abdomen where the warmth of her fingers lingered. I shook my head, smiling wryly. This Audrey Chun was genuinely, delightfully intoxicating.